Yo, what's good, everybody? This your boy JTL, aka Big Op from the North 18, back with another one for y'all. All right, so I told myself I didn't want to keep having this conversation, but some things transpired that made a brother be like, F it. You know what I mean? Got some clowns on YouTube disrespecting the home team. You know, we can't go for that, man. Especially when these people, they always want to come to your channel, say you're going to have a respectful conversation, and then they go to showing their true colors. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, we got to call you out for it. It is what it is. You can't, you know what I'm saying? Somebody might not like it. Oh, the hell, well, what up, Wally? I see you. You might not like it, but oh well, this is how it goes. You know what I'm saying? This is how a grown man handle it. We go ahead and call you out for it. Try to talk to you first. That's the first thing we try to do, is talk to people about these things. You know what I'm saying? We try to have a conversation, and you know, say we can come to a good understanding about some things. But let's go ahead and get into it. So you see what it says: reparations need to be paid. We had this conversation for last week or so. It's been some time longer than that every time it comes up. Shout out to my boy JVJ, because, you know, he be having this conversation a lot. And it tripped me out because I know what was said about me. But I told Jay, I said, oh, you like me. Guess what?
I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all.
So shout out to JVJ for being blackly black. Appreciate you, brother. But we need to go ahead and have this conversation. We keep talking about reparations, and we got a couple of them, you know, that's always nerve-wracking, frustrating to keep hearing the bullshit. You know what I'm saying? And the biggest thing is that we keep hearing, the reason why black people don't deserve reparations is because what? Drum roll. Is because it didn't happen to us. It happened hundreds of years ago. Slavery didn't happen to us. Jim Crow didn't happen to us. Redlining didn't happen to us, right? So we don't deserve to be paid nothing. That's the biggest one. Okay, but my thoughts is, if that's the case, then maybe you can explain to me why, when it came to that, it still was paid out. What's good with you, Hurricane? I see you. So let's go ahead and go to this. All right. This is brought to y'all by history.com. You know, History Channel, man. You can't beat them on information. They do a good job on giving information. So y'all, please excuse me if y'all leave some comments. I may not see it right away, but I'll definitely do my best to keep checking. All right. So, and on this page right here, I'll share the link a little later. It actually shows different groups of people that receive reparations. All right. See this woman right here? See her? What's good, Grace? It says right here, a portrait. I'm not gonna even try to mess up the name. Who was the Queen of Hawaii in Honolulu, 1917. So, let's do a little bit of reading. Well, let me go down just a little bit. Just a little bit, because it's something that I really wanted to show y'all. My apologies. Let me go down just a little bit. You know, Japanese people that receive reparations, that's what they paid for slavery. That's still a question that they keep asking. But it's something that I want to read for y'all, which I'm sure y'all probably know where I'm going with this by now. Okay. Man, that's a lot on here. Talk about Tuskegee. Now, these same people said Tuskegee, well, they deserved it because they got paid out to people that something happened to. So they got some money for it or whatever, right? So here we go. This is for the Indian Claims Commission. World War II sparked a movement to address one of the United States' historic wrongs: its treatment of Native Americans over centuries of conquest and colonization. Native Americans enlisted in World War II in disproportionately high numbers, 44,000 or nearly 13% of the entire population of Native Americans at the time, served as code talkers who stomped the enemy with their tribal languages and brave service members who fought in the European and Pacific theaters of war. After World War II, momentum to compensate tribes for the unjust seizure of their lands grew. In 1946, Congress created the Indian Claims Commission, a body designed to hear historic grievances and compensate tribes for lost territories. Its commission extensive historical research and ended up awarding about $1.3 billion to 176 tribes and bands. The money was largely given to groups, which then distribute the money among their members. For some tribes whose members didn't live on a reservation, note historian Michael Leader and Jake Page, the money was distributed per capita. For those who did live on reservations, the money was often earmarked for tribal projects. However, the actual funds only averaged out to about $1,000 per person of Native American ancestry, and most of the money was put in trust accounts held by the United States government, which has been accused of mismanagement over the years. Kind of effed up. Gambling has had a more positive impact on the quality of life in reservations than did the Indian Claims Commission Act, Leader and Page wrote. Hold on. However, my apologies. Hold on, let me go up a little bit more. And it took decades for a formal apology tucked inside a defense spending bill. The United States apologized for what it characterized as the many instances of violence, maltreatment, and neglect inflicted on Native peoples by citizens of the United States in 2009. Here you see President Harry S. Truman signing a bill providing for the establishment of the Indian Claims Commission. So maybe somebody can help me understand. The slaves was going through their shit for hundreds of years, right? Say when the Pilgrims came over, did what they did, or Kingsmen and all that. Upwards of millions of people, what they did to Indians for hundreds of years. And then they finally got their money. And it started around 1946. 1946. The Native Americans, was going through this, since around the 1500s or so? All the way up to 1946. So you're going to tell me that black people don't deserve no reparations because it happened hundreds of years ago. So I guess the Indians didn't deserve it either. Happened hundreds of years ago. And while the Indians was getting paid, or they was taken care of since 1946, black people was going through redlining. So, and that took what? From 1946 to around the 80s or something, they really started doing something about it? Somebody explain that to me. Like I said, this pretty much gonna be my last time talking about it, because I already know them cowards that I'm talking about, all they gonna do is move the goalposts. Their main argument was, it didn't happen to you, so why would you deserve reparations? But I just sat here and read about the Indians starting to be taken care of in 1946. And black people were still going through shit. I mean, I think it's very funny that some people don't know their history. They say we do, but let's see. Grace says, I'm going to just point out the difference. The government was basically paying for the land taking. Apparently it didn't give a fuck about labor costs for hundreds of years or lies. No, I get that, but we was also promised 40 acres and a mule. We was also promised shit as well, Grace, and I get that for the stealing land and stuff like that. They gave them a little something, but as you seen what I read here, they also talked about because of their services in the military. Black people, we pretty much fought in almost all the wars in this country. So a lot of shit we did. There's a lot of black people that lost land as well. A lot of black people that had land stolen from. And I don't mean to make it seem as I'm going at the Indians and nothing, because they deserve something, especially them. But when we had this conversation talking about when something happened to a group of people hundreds of years ago, and now they don't deserve nothing, their ancestors don't deserve nothing, then you could say the same thing for the Indians. That's what it said. That's what it was said. Got my boy Defin on the building. He said, "My bad, I am late for the party. Angry Snowman is encouraging people to find JVJ." So, what? He want to get him on the live, or he talking about find this channel or some crap? Might be talking about find this channel or something. Unless he telling him to get on the live, I don't. Who cares? But that was my point. Ray says there's so much that has built the amount of funds made from the cotton farms or guinea pigs giving bad blood, also known as syphilis, which gets passed down to newborn babies, and much more. It's so much. It's so much. What? Find him, put out his name and his state so far. Oh, I know he ain't acting like a bitch like that. So he can't handle the conversation now. He want to go do something like that. Told you, man. Motherfuckers is cowards. Told you. If he's such a man, why don't you go do it yourself? Don't try to send nobody else. You go do it yourself. But see, this is the shit that we be talking about. That's the shit we be talking about. You had these conversations with certain types of people, and then they want to do all this extra shit. Like I said, I'm done with this conversation with ignorant motherfuckers. There's only two ways I would care about this conversation, meaning it's gonna be productive and we're actually talking about something. And I'm not talking about just like on YouTube, no shit like that. I mean, like, actually there's some shit going on within Congress and we can go have conversations, or whatever cities or state, whatever, we can have actual conversations, something like that. Or, you know, just, I'm not gonna worry about it. Grace says, how many children weren't born and families not continue due to the mass deletion of lives? My bad, hold on, because another comment came in. Continue to due to the mass deletion of lives of slaves and such continues to still happen. I can't put that out there, Hurricane, and be careful about what you say, because these motherfuckers, I don't know if you know this, Hurricane. I think after you did the video about R. Kelly finessing somebody, I just put well damn on your comment section, and I guess somebody came in and reported me or something, because I was like, that's the only comment I left today, and I know my boy Hurricane didn't do it, so what the hell going on? Somebody came in there and tried to say cyberbullying or something with my comment. I'm like, all I said was, well damn, are you kidding me? So I don't know what happened with that. Of course, Hurricane, you know I ain't blaming you for that shit, but I'm just telling you, be careful about certain things you say, because they be tripping on here. You can say small stuff, but like I said, man, that's all I was worried about. Expressing about too much, nothing else. You know what I'm saying? Like I read to you, Indians got theirs, and trust me, they deserved it. I'm not saying they didn't deserve it. Can't sit there and say we don't deserve nothing either. Not just because, it happened hundreds of years ago, now you don't deserve nothing. That's bullshit. Straight up bullshit. So, Unless anybody want to come up real quick and talk about what I just read from history.com. You know, the History Channel, that's their website, history.com. Hold on. I'll just drop the link for a little bit. So if anybody want to come up for a quick second just to talk about that real quick, come on up. I ain't gonna be up here too much longer, but if you want to talk about that, let me know. But yeah, like I said, man, a lot of these conversations end up being meaningless because you'll have people complaining, talking about what don't need to be paid, like it's gonna come from them. Like one cat was like, as long as it ain't paid from poor whites, it's like, what are you talking about? All the stuff that all Americans have to pay and go through, ain't nothing happen. Like, I don't get it. I really don't get it. So it's like there's no point to keep having these conversations, scratching over the bullshit, going back and forth with motherfuckers because they're gonna keep saying the same old shit. You don't deserve it because ain't nothing happening to you. And we already know why that is. Oh, well, nah, black folks, they just gonna fuck up the money anyway. Who cares? Get it over with. Come to some meaningful terms. Just get it over with. Simple as that. That's a good one. Gray says, so where did all the money for the Native Americans come from? That's a good one. No, what up, man? Well, I don't know if you want to stay in the back or not. You ain't say nothing.
Shoot, I come up, you know what I'm saying? We can have a meaningful conversation if you want to take it a little bit further. I said I wasn't going to do this, but oh, man.
Well, what you got on the subject?
So as you know, I came in a little bit late, and I think that the main question was about the things that happened where that bill was signed by Truman, or not, basically giving out essentially reparations hundreds of years or 100 years after, you know what I'm saying, the damage was done, right?
Hundreds of years, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I just think that the conversation is definitely overdone. It's happened time and time again, and I think that the divide that we have right now is the reason why the conversation is pretty much moot at this point. I know it might sound effed up to a lot of people who might be listening, but it just doesn't make any sense. Like, I mean, unless you have other ideas, I can explain how it doesn't make sense. But I mean,
I know. Yeah. Please go ahead. In what way? Like, because I gave my point as well. So go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, reparations at this point doesn't make any sense because, especially what's being latched onto as a reason for or the why behind, you know what I'm saying, people are trying to fight so hard for reparations. I think that a lot of the arguments are more so built out of greed. It's not necessarily built out of, you know, wanting to further black people or, you know, establish a black community or anything of that sort. The problem I have is that, you know what I'm saying, a lot of these same people who are crying out for reparations aren't doing any of the work to establish a black community, finally get back to actually having black communities, because right now we don't have one. So, you know what I'm saying, as long as you're making those complaints and you're using, you know what I'm saying, history as a justification, yet you're not doing anything yourself, it's just kind of, it really is off-putting for me, man. It just seems like you have people have a different agenda overall. So
no, I agree with you, because I got a good one I can add to that, and I will ask y'all a question. Well, I ask you this question, definitely. Say you got somebody who gets reparations around our age, but they don't have no financial literacy, no real education, no real understanding of land or nothing. So say if the government gives out, and this person gets, or a lot of these people, this mind frame, get 10 acres of land, right? But then somebody comes in and say, well, hey, I give you $2 million for that land. Do you think they're gonna say no and then just go ahead and go to that land and actually build on it, or they're gonna take that $2 million?
Of course, they're gonna take the $2 million.
So piggybacking off what you said about an actual black community, that is a big issue because I've seen a couple business owners do that. Like one in particular, they had a nice sized land, and instead of just letting businesses come and build on it or building houses, owning something on it, they just sold the property, got a couple $1 million, and went broke in about five years. So we don't have no community, we don't have no real understanding, especially not like we had about 100 years ago. It's gonna be given for nothing. But not only that, everybody got different ideas of what they want. Or just give me a couple of dollars. Some people saying give me land. Some other people, it's just all over the place. So we don't have a good mindset on what we're doing, and then everybody here going to saying stupid shit. How you gonna fight for it when you don't even know what the hell you fighting for? So you're not gonna be able to come together and actually make a real plan to get it. Got Grace in the building. What's? Oh, my bad. Go ahead. You got something to say?
No, you can go ahead and introduce her. I was gonna have a couple points on that, but you can go ahead and introduce her.
Hey, what's up, Grace? Say what's up to the people.
Hey guys.
That's good. But
I don't know. I'm for it. Like, I just, that there's so many. Oh, well, you weren't there at that time, and this and that would do, and you think about how many people, didn't they built the houses that another family lived in and passed down to their family, and then it's not just starting from the bottom, it's starting from under people. You know what I mean? That adversity, that fight, like, it's services rendered, why not pay for it?
And what's the price for that?
I'm saying if you're gonna monetize it, like, how much does 40 acres and a mule go for?
That's
the best I can come up with, because ain't nobody gonna want a mule no more.
But who says that you're supposed to get 40 acres and a mule?
That was the promise, like that was a promise that was made whenever the slaves were freed.
Okay, so that's where a lot of the issue comes in. A lot of people are thinking about the max. Like, for instance, if I say, hey, you do this for me, I can give you up to $1 million. If you play the lottery, you can win up to $1 billion. They say these things, but when you play the lottery, do you always get $1 billion? Here's my thing, right? And I understand that's not necessarily the same, right? So I'll actually read it for you, because it was a special field order. It wasn't a law or anything like that. It was a special field order number 15. The Union General William, what is his name? Tekumesh or something like that. He said that the freed slaves, and he was more so intending on the ones who were fighting for the Union. The freed slaves will be provided no more, and the wording was very specific, no more than 40 acres and a mule, which I think is about 18 hectares, right? The problem is that it's no more. So literally, by that, if you want to go based off of the original words, rather than saying, hey, we keep hearing this 40 acres and a mule and we just want the max, the government could even to this day come out and say, okay, well, it was only for the freed slaves, so we'll provide the families of each of those freed slaves a 1-inch by 1-inch plot of land. We'll provide them a 1-inch by 1-inch plot of land, because that satisfies the fact that it's not more than 40 acres and a mule.
So you're saying it was 40 acres in total?
No, at max. The max that could be given to a freed slave.
Yeah, but my question is, like,
I mean, they can go.
They can go to 30. They can go to 10. They can go to 1-inch by 1-inch.
Yeah, they can do some bullshit. And then don't forget what you said about the freed slave. Think about how many people were free and then put back into bondage, and it was legal.
Yeah, but even if you just took the ones that were freed at that moment in time when they made that statement, then that means that they give that to those families. The families have already gone by so many generations that who gets that 1-inch by 1-inch? And I mean, many times right now, going as far as we are right now, the people who are going to be getting it right now are so blended with, what people would call the whites, you couldn't even tell them from a black person, but they would also have a say. And the problem is that I go back to the very beginning. Nobody wants to hear these conversations, or nobody's going to honor these conversations, because we don't have a community. And a community is, one that has common goals, common attitudes, common interests, just that community. And unfortunately, we don't have that. When we did have
So
a
you're
community,
saying until there's like a March situation, and
it doesn't
people
even
get together, it's a moot point. But the thing is, like,
have to
you
be a
can't get them
march.
together without the conversation.
It
I'm
doesn't have to
not
be-
saying with a march. I'm saying, a mass amount of people. I'm
Yes.
using that as an example.
Yes, because
But
one person has a idea and it dies with him. One person
Okay.
has an idea that goes and spreads. That idea becomes reality.
Well, if you don't keep your mouth shut, the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Sometimes that
And
grease is
and instead of going with the 40 acres and a mule, why not go through, like Optus did with the history thing, and look at the reparations given to how many other different people, and make your calculations based on that and the work that was done.
Another
But
problem,
the-
which I think Death Note is saying, is the fact that what I read, it was 176 tribes. So
Yeah.
they would have to figure out in what way they would do that for us. And the biggest issue is us even coming together to even know what tribe we are. So you got to do DNA and all that. And then somebody did say something I understood. It was like, well, who's supposed to pay for that? Which I was like, well, the government going to pay for that shit too. But at the same,
reparations.
yeah. So it's just all over. It's all over the place. Now, if it was something that was a clear understanding, like, hey, we got to give them something, let's just be done with it. Yeah, but it's just so many. We so all over the place. It's like, how do you do that?
You have the conversation.
No, I mean, we're having a conversation, but the problem
You know what I
is,
mean? Yeah,
too
but
many
you keep
conversations
having the
that's just all over the
conversation,
place.
because the more conversations you have with other people that have ideas, the more ideas come together, and you can actually put something on paper and say, okay, this is our proposal. But you have to keep having those conversations with different people.
Yeah, but see, I agree with you, but the problem is, like, we got somebody like Tariq Nasheed had that conversation. Then they asked Dr. Umar Johnson, and then he shot down everything Tariq Nasheed said. That's when it becomes a problem, when you got two big voices like that speaking for everybody, instead of coming together what people really want. And Umar, he doesn't want the same thing that Tariq wants, and vice versa. But y'all talking about the same thing: ownership, getting respect and apology for what was done to us, giving us what we actually owed. At the end of the day, that's the same thing they're speaking of. But then they twist it to what it needs to be. So these people like, well, shit, y'all figure it out in another 100 years and we'll talk about it again. That's the problem we keep having. So that's why it's easy for them two white dudes to come over and say the shit that they say, because we're not together on it.
Right.
Got Ariel in the building. He said they owe us in the trillions. And he said, or we could unite, take the land back, which was ours from the jump. All it takes is unity for just one day amongst all of us. I can say certain ones goons, certain people, homeless, disabled, and on drugs.
He said just everybody.
Yeah, just any and everybody.
Get the crazy drug out. Hey man, you get a couple crackheads in there, you get some stuff done.
Hey, I'm just out of curiosity. Where did he come up with that number? That's in the trillions.
The only thing, probably most likely, is if you take what should have been given back then and then into the currency now, and inflation, what was supposed to be, you know what I'm saying, what you would have paid out when stuff was inflated, all of that. Like, it's a lot of numbers you have to add to say the.
I mean, even if you took like the main 10 jobs done, calculate that throughout the years, what you would pay somebody for doing it, building a house, picking cotton in a field. They pay people like to test out drugs. Okay, because there's a lot of surgeries, a lot of things where black people are the guinea pigs for like a lot of different things that we benefit from now. You know what I mean? If you sit there and even if you just broke it down to the 10 main things you could think of, that'd still be a whole lot of money. and just calculate, like I said, through the years. They can calculate giving a family X amount of dollars when they're falsely deleted by the police, but they can't calculate this. There's books that say lives that were lost, and what happened to them. There's a way to do it. It just needs to get done.
Especially stolen land, especially if you bring up allegedly, because you hear different stories, stolen inventions and stuff like that. Like, if you add all that, maybe it would come to $1 trillion or so. But I mean, for the currency now,
I'm just looking at the numbers today.
Yeah, that's what's the issue, right?
I'm looking at the numbers today, and the numbers today tell me this, right? Recorded and documented, there was just a little over 180,000 slaves that fought for the Union, or not, who received these words. That's including living and perished. And there was, and obviously records aren't probably ironclad, obviously, through the times. And then what? The average right now in the United States for 18 hectares or the 40 acres, average right now price is $307,844. And the reason why it's low is because that includes rural areas and everything as well. I know people are thinking city. There's no way you can find that in the city. But the average price right now for 18 acres is $307,844. Multiply that, then you get $55 billion, I believe, $56 billion. So I'm still not understanding.
Hey man, how much is a mule? Don't forget the mule.
But again, this is taking the max. And you were never guaranteed the max. Nobody ever said that the max was guaranteed. But here's what I believe, right? I think that Black people just need to come together, create a community, and then we need to foster opportunities for Black people to succeed. Now, giving them direct payment, direct finances, and everything like that, I don't believe that's the solution. I think that we need to teach people about money. We need to teach people how to utilize money, how to save money, how to do these different things, like how wealth is built, how wealth is generated. We need to teach these things because it's like to teach man a fish. Most Black people I know, if you give them, $200, or the case and be, and I mean, they'll make something happen. I'm talking about the Black people I know, but most Black people in general, you give them $200 and they're gonna buy something foolish with it, or they're gonna do something foolish with it. So my whole thing is a lot of people today who are having these conversations and making these statements, they're not looking toward the generations of tomorrow, the generations of next year, the next decade, the next century. They're looking for today. They're looking for, hey, how can you help me today because you didn't help my parents yesterday? You know what I'm saying? And I think that, like I said, a lot of these conversations are built out of greed. I would much rather have equality of opportunity, or a leg up in the opportunity, than to have somebody to just give me a handout. Because you give me a handout, that's going to run out. But if you give me an opportunity and you give me the equal chance, or even if you want to say, hey, more than an equal chance, if you give me more than an equal chance right now, then I'd much rather that, because then I have the opportunities to pass it on through the generations. So that's where I get lost with a lot of this conversation, is that everybody wants some type of financial payment out right now because they see the number and they think, hey, you know what, that'll work for me. But how many Black people are there right now? You're not getting millions of dollars a person.
No, your argument makes sense. Like it does. It makes sense. But here's I have an issue with the argument of what are they going to do with the money, because that shouldn't be the concern. That's not our business. You know what I mean? Like, it's not my business what somebody does with money that's paid for, the lives that their grandparents lived, the time and energy that they spent making no money and living their life up until they died, or being deleted, or, the torture that they went through. Like, what people do, people are going to do. It doesn't matter what race it is. There's going to be people that make wise decisions, and there's going to be people that make stupid decisions. That's not the fact. Still remains that a debt needs to be paid.
Okay, I got two questions based off of that last statement. Who's going to pay that debt?
as far as I'm concerned, taxes. I pay taxes.
Okay, so you're going to pay for that debt.
Why not?
Okay, so we got to pay
It's
our
just
own
money.
reparations. Now, where does the land come from?
Well, you're gonna end up having to monetize it. Well, there's a lot of land that's not taken. I mean, I live in Oklahoma. There's a lot of land around here.
Okay, but who are you? I mean, it's owned by somebody, right? It's not just free and clear.
Oh no, but the government owns a whole lot of land too.
Okay, do they?
That's unused, and the government has a lot of our tax money going to unnecessary studies and stupid things. Why not give it to somebody who can actually benefit from it, and it'll benefit the economy? And I'm not saying that it'll come out of the taxes. Obviously, if you check mark black, then it shouldn't come out your taxes.
Okay, so
I check mark Pacific Islander because I'm from Guam, and I'm still cool with paying that because it's U.S. territory.
Okay, so
It's just money. It's just money. Why is it such a big deal over just money whenever so many people lost their lives, man? Why does money seem to mean more to people than these people's lives?
Because you have to understand that as a people, we haven't come together, and giving that much money means that you're also giving the ability for power, because money is power. Commodities are power. Goods are power.
And what's wrong with that?
What's wrong with it?
Yes. So only white people can have power?
Y'all keep going. I'll be right back.
So, do you have children?
Yes.
Are you willing? How old are your children? Just a range. You don't have to give me an exact age.
From 21 to 9.
21 to 9. So, would you be willing to allow your 9-year-old or your 21-year-old completely take over your household right now in this moment, and allow them to do everything and be responsible for your livelihood?
My kids, yeah, I would.
At a 9-year-old.
She's a very smart 9-year-old.
Oh,
she probably makes better decisions with my money than I do. She's 9 and she's been saving for college since she was 4. Every bit of money she makes, she puts back half of it for her college fund. Still.
Okay. Well, so I'm just gonna say I don't know many 9-year-olds that have the ability to maintain a household. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. There's not very many, but you asked about mine.
No, I get it. So you would be 100% completely okay with yielding power to your 9-year-old. Now,
yeah, I have a 13-year-old. I would not do that with.
What I'm saying is, okay, well, that's a perfect example right there as well. What I'm saying is that you yield power to the 9-year-old, or you yield power to the 13-year-old or 21-year-old. Now you have no more say. The same way your kids.
Here's my question: How are we yielding power?
Just let me finish, right? So if it's in that situation, they're paying all the bills, they're deciding what time you go to bed, what time you wake up, what time you go out, who you can hang out with. Because I'm sure as a 9-year-old, they're not going to say, "Hey, I'm going to bed at 3:00 in the morning today, even though I have school tomorrow," right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you decide those things. Now flip the script and say, okay, well, your 9-year-old's going to tell you that you have to go to bed early. Your 9-year-old's going to tell you what you can and cannot do. There's no way you're going to tell me that you're willing to yield the power of being an adult to a child who, especially if they're not ready to take on those responsibilities.
Okay, but I don't understand your analogy. I don't understand how your analogy works in this situation. Explain that. I'm
bringing it back right now. What I'm saying is that those who are in power or those who have power seldom voluntarily give it up. Just like it says in the comments or whatever. The only solution at this point, if that's really what you're looking for, is a revolution, whether it be violent revolution or non-violent revolution. Either way, a revolution is going to have to happen. It's just like with the 1% right now. The 1% don't make 1%, or rather, the less than half of a percent. They're not willing to just give up every dime that they have simply because we have people who are homeless. If that was the case, they would go out and they would buy everything for homeless people, and they would spend their money to make sure that everyone was equal. Nobody really wants to get rid of their power unless they're forced to, whether it be by their own guilt or by someone physically making them do it, or threatening them to do it. And by threaten, I mean using the prospect of jail time or just taking the assets or anything of that sort or of that nature. And that's where the difficulty comes in. That's the reason why with congressmen, you can vote them into Congress, but then when they get there, you say, hey, I want you to vote this way. They may not even care. They might say, hey, listen, even though you as my constituent believes in something, I don't believe in that. And you have no power to change their mind. They're not going to give up that power that they have unless you force them to. And your one vote to them doesn't matter.
So do you have any suggestions?
Do I have any suggestions?
I wouldn't know how to do it, I'll be honest. But I am coming from a place of right and wrong. Okay, period. It's not, nothing else matters to me. There's right and there's wrong. Okay?
So I think that's right.
And I know that a lot of people don't think that way. I wouldn't be paying it out of guilt. It would be the right thing to do. Okay, a lot of people don't think the same way that I think, and I understand that. So my question is, how do you overcome that?
Well, so I think that it starts with Black people coming together, creating an actual community. When Black people actually come together and create an actual community, your voices will be heard. A single voice isn't that loud, but millions of voices will be booming. And I think that as long as we're so messed up right now and so divided or whatnot, where there's so many voices, it sounds like white noise to everyone else. Yes, there's some issues that a lot of people have problems with, but even when people are deleted in the streets, literally people only care for maybe a week or two. I mean, it's literally like that.
Yeah.
People will move mountains for other situations or other people passing away. And my whole thing is right now it's like, okay, well, what are you fighting for? You're fighting for the same people who for the same people who, part of what people think is the culture is violence. Part of what they think is the culture is over-sexualization. Part of what they think is the culture is all these things that are overall negative.
So it kind of almost seems like in order to counteract this argument to begin with, a whole agenda was pushed a certain type of way to make Black people look horrible, so that when this came up, people would think that way. So how can somebody like myself help? I mean, I try to speak truth.
Listen, you can speak truth. I think that overall the conversation is that, the conversations, yes, they do need to be had, but I think that we need to get back to parenting. I think that, and when I say that, the times were better in the 80s and the 90s and stuff like that, I remember being able to go out and play with friends. I remember saying that, the street lights was my curfew. We can't do any of that right now. We're going to hell in a handbasket. And people are asking for reparations, but you can't even get along with your neighbor. You can't even get along with, you don't even know all the people who stay on the same block as you, or even in the same community as you. And that's a problem. So I think that as long as we're so divided, or whatever the case may be, a lot of these conversations of, hey, what are you going to do for me, are born out of greed. We need to start sitting down, having conversations, getting rid of a lot of the stereotypes, the stigmas, having the conversations to say, hey, we're going to take back our image, rather than letting the media and the loudest voices that of people who look like me, create the narrative for us. As when those things start to happen, you get more respect. The most respected people even today, as far as the Black community, are business owners and Muslims. It's crazy. The business owners and Muslims. When I say Muslims, everybody in their mind, they think of what? A Black man in a suit. because they took even though it's within the black community, they're taking
It's
over
that
the narrative.
discipline, that self-discipline.
Well, it's the fact that they've started taking over the narrative or whatever, as far as what everybody else sees them as. Now, I understand that they have things and they have problems with any religion, with any group or whatnot. There always are good things and bad things, and this Robert fellow, he is going ham in the comments, and I see that he's not hearing many of the words that are being spoken. He's kind of just responding. But
Yeah, he just popped over here. He just responded to what Grace is saying. He ain't listening to nothing that me and you said, so he just popped. Hey, what's up, Israel? Got Israel in the building. What's good, brother?
Shalom, my brother. Son-in-law, I heard you. Son-in-law, where you at?
man, if you don't stop calling me son-in-law, man, I'm telling you, I'm not marrying your daughter, bro. Stop
What's
saying
good?
that.
What's good, Israel? Let's not even go on that shit. What's good, Israel?
I'm good, man. How y'all doing tonight?
Chilling, man.
Yeah,
You got
Hey,
anything
can I
in this
respond to this
conversation?
Robert fella?
Man, don't even worry about Robert right now. What you got, Israel? We'll get back to that.
I'm just gonna chime in a little bit later. I'm just gonna listen for right now. I don't really got nothing to drop on this topic right yet. Not at this juncture. Yeah, I'll come in a little bit.
All right, well, go ahead, Grace. You can respond to the chat.
Oh, Grace.
Hey, Israel.
Grace. Charlotte came here and said she'll be there Monday. I talked to her earlier.
Oh, cool.
All right.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I peeked in and out on that one. I was on another prayer live. You know how I do my prayers. Anyway, Robert, your comment says, you know, what's the point? It's never gonna happen. So why are you here? That's just what I want to know.
No, he's here
Why-
because he came from Snowman.
Why are you coming over here just to throw hate? Like, if you're not worried about it, then why are you bothering, bud? Nobody's begging for anything, honey.
Yeah.
I don't know if
he
you
doesn't
heard
get
what
that.
I said, but I said it's a debt owed that should be paid. Owed. When
So my
you-
question to you, Robert, then so the Indians shouldn't have got their reparations, because we was talking about that earlier. So the Indians shouldn't have got reparations? Because that happened to them hundreds of years ago, and they started getting theirs in 1946. Like, if you look at that picture right there, you'll see that the president was signing for that.
But it's a real conversation, and hey, Robert, we appreciate you for allowing, for going ahead and furthering our conversation. Nobody's begging for reparations. We're having a conversation, a true conversation, and I get it. You came from Snowman's channel, Jay popped up over there. You guys were trying to dox him and all that good stuff, but that has nothing to do with what we're talking about tonight. So I say have a good night, sir. And there's that.
Oh,
So-
y'all talking to somebody in the chat. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
hear nothing.
Yeah, that problem solved. But man, it's just, I don't know, man. Like a lot of people having these conversations about like reparations and everything. It doesn't make sense to me until people start fixing what's going on locally. And once we start fixing what's going on locally, things are gonna get a lot better, man. It's really gonna get a lot better.
Well, we have to logistically figure out how to do it. That's one of the dilemmas. Right now there's no mechanism in place for us, for our demographic of people. We're unique to those other groups who got reparations and funding. We're not in that same situation. What happened to us was totally unique. So the solution is going to have to be unique as well. But we have to start laying some foundations so that some point in the future we can make this a serious discussion. Right now, I think people are just talking to be talking. They don't even know how to even get this started. Like, where will we begin?
Yeah, I think that's what Death Note was. That's what we were discussing right before you popped up, Israel, and that's what he was saying. He was saying, in order to get to that point to where you can have this discussion on a mass scale, you got to pretty much start in the home. You got to,
Yeah, you got to lay the
I'm
foundation.
correct because of how the media has labeled Black people as a whole.
in other demographics, they had a solid community that the funding can be poured into. Right now we're just a bucket with with a bunch of holes in it. It's
Hey, I
just
know that
help.
I heard a few years back that my auntie had sent me this link to like fill out my information on where they were working on getting Guamanians recognized as a tribe. Maybe it's something to look into.
Well,
Black people.
see, the thing
You know what I
is,
mean?
because historically we can't trace our roots back beyond 1865. So if you've ever looked at any of the census reports and you get to a certain point where there are no names, it'll just say child 9 years old, girl 6 years old. There were no names. That was purposely done. Their heritage was hidden. So we can't use a standard method that you would, like, for example, with European immigrants or even the Cuban immigrants, because they got theirs recently. They got the Cuban when Castro let all the Cubans come over here. They got the Cuban Assimilation Act, and we didn't even owe them no money. We had never done anything to them. That was Castro, but because they were an organized community, we were able to pour funding into them. But again, black people, and when I say black, I'm talking about descendants of the slave trade, black people. We're again, there's no way to trace the ancestry, beyond a certain point. It's very difficult to do. So we have to
Then maybe
overcome that.
even to set up a whole new website specifically for that.
But where's the data going to come from?
People
So you're talking about a
claim-
website, but
Yeah.
where's the data coming from? There's no written records. See?
I don't know, Israel ain't got all the answers. I'm just trying to put my head out there, but
That's the problem. That's like, if you ever, what was the guy who used to do the
I'm a
TV
girl.
show? He
I
was
start. You know
tracing-
what? Guys are problem solvers. There's how many of you on this board? Come on, guys.
What's the guy who was doing it? He had a show. He was doing the ancestry. He was helping people find their roots. He had difficulty tracing one person. Sometimes he would get lucky and find them all, be able to trace them all the way back to Africa, some tribe in Africa. But that's one. It's very difficult.
I don't understand why it's got to be traced back that far. If you could at least be traced back to slavery, that should be sufficient.
But you can't, because 1865 when the census cuts off. Before 1865, there was no census for us. It was cattle slavery for a reason. There were no names. It was just boy, 3 years old.
What about numbers?
Yeah, but right. If it was a lot of kids, it was like fourth child. Like, you'll see that,
Yeah,
or
but
maybe
there's-
some
I know-
arbitrary number.
The only
the
way that
black
would work,
people I know,
Israel,
like,
the only way that would
can-
work. Hold on, Grace. The only way that would work, Israel, is if they able to trace back to a number or something like that, and then you
Yeah.
find relatives that bloodline could be traced, and then if they kept their history to find out. Because I remember
But see, that's what I'm
saying-
trying to tell y'all. There is no record.
Yeah, it's nothing. No, that's what I'm saying. It would have to be some like a family actual thing, and that would make it real difficult.
Yeah.
Like, how you keep your family history and stuff like that. And
Yeah, I mean, somebody might have, again, remember, we couldn't read and write before slavery ended, right? So it was illegal for us to write stuff down. They did this specifically for this reason. So we could not trace our roots. So if you happen to get that one family who had that Bible, grandma's Bible, they were literate people. Some of the churches kept records. There was no organized system. So from town to town, it was different. It's crazy. Gaines, I think is the guy's name who was doing the TV show. DNA helps a little bit, but there's no DNA record when you go back to a certain point to compare it to. There's nothing, and that's why it's so important for us to get these older generation people while they're still here, test their DNA. because you lose something from generation to generation.
Yeah.
So whoever the oldest person in your family is, pay the $50 and make them spit the tube so we can find out something before it gets lost. Most, what did they say? Only 15% of black men can trace on their father's side back to their great grandfather. Think about
How
that.
far back can we trace?
Only 15% of black men can trace their roots back to their great grandfathers.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, just do the math in your head. And it's crazy.
Nothing but like what, 2-3 generations?
That's 2.5, basically. You know, even, I mean, and that's today's world. That's in today's world. You know, you'll know your mama's people, but daddy's people, oh man, it's tough.
Yeah,
it's
true.
real tough.
So
Listen,
I appreciate everybody coming through. I'm going to have to end the live now because I got shit to talk about in the back chat. So appreciate everybody that was here, and like I was saying, man, we trying to talk about some real stuff and actually speak about what it is versus just like the ignorant crap that everybody else is on. We not on that. We actually trying to talk about something. Hey, definitely delete the link that's in the chat for me if you can.
JVJ Network been on fire the last couple of days. We had a great panel last night. I've had a great panel before that. So like, yo, y'all doing your thing right now, man. Great shows. Great show. Grace kicked ass last night with her panel, you know. She had a big dog come through and drop in the chat. I'm like, all right.
All right, y'all. So we about to get up out of here. Appreciate everybody for coming through, checking us out. You know what it is, man. You never know when we pop up, but definitely on Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern. That's when your boy doing the show. So appreciate y'all for real. So you know, we gonna be back.